Today's video is all about broccoli. This underrated vegetable is often boiled until grey and mushy, but in this video I'll be showing you how to get the most out of it. I've got 3 incredible recipes ranging in difficulty from easy to slightly more tricky, so whatever your cooking ability is, I've got you covered. If you're new here, my name is George. I've been a chef for 10 years and I post weekly plant-based cooking and recipe videos, so be sure to subscribe if you're new. Let's start with a really simple but delicious blanched broccoli with chili, lemon and garlic. So let's start by prepping the broccoli. I'm simply going to cut off just a thin slice here to get this sort of dry bit off. Then we're going to remove the stem. Definitely do not throw out the stem. You can just trim off the sort of woody outside like so. And then I'm just going to slice it into rounds. Like so. And then for the broccoli florets, instead of cutting through the outside bit, which is just going to cause a mess. Oh my God. Oh God, there's literally broccoli everywhere. My girlfriend's going to be fuming. I'm going to cut where the stems are and they're just easily going to separate from each other. And we want them to be similar sized pieces so they cook evenly. We don't want smaller bits which are going to go mushy, and we don't want really big bits which are going to stay a bit too hard. So just cut these all down to roughly the same size. I quite like cooking them quite small, so they take literally 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes at most to cook. Pop a saucepan on the heat, and we're just going to add some boiling water. Now most of you probably know how to cook broccoli, but one quick tip is to add a generous pinch of salt, and that is going to season the water and thus season the broccoli. Once you've got a rapid boil, add in your broccoli and just make sure it's all well submerged. A good tip for saving on your gas or electricity bill is to always use a lid, just so that you retain the heat and you can bring things to a boil much quicker. Or you can use a lower heat, but you'll get the same result because the lid is retaining the heat. So I've literally cooked this broccoli for about 2 minutes, as it's going to go straight into the frying pan with the olive oil, the chili, the garlic and the lemon. If I wasn't going to use the broccoli now, I'd get some cold water onto it, maybe even some ice water, just to stop it from cooking and retain that lovely greenness. But since we're going to get it straight into the frying pan and then into my mouth, we don't need to worry. So we'll prepare our aromatics now. I've got garlic, chili and lemon. For the chili, I'm probably going to use about 1/3 of this chili, and I'm not going to use any of the seeds. If you're a spice king or queen, then feel free to use the seeds, of course. You can either thinly slice or sort of mince it. I'm going to mince it, so cutting it into thin batons and then just run my knife through it like so, a nice rocking motion, keeping my fingertips out of the way at all times. So there we have just a really nice fine dice. I think the French term would probably be a fine brunoise. Then for the garlic, I'm just going to crush the clove, and that's going to get the skin off nice and easily. You don't want it too small or else it'll burn in the pan. So we're going to go for a similar size as the chili. So we'll get the gas on a nice high heat and then just get yourself a frying pan on there. We're going to heat up the pan without any oil at first, as if you add the oil to a cold pan, it just sort of soaks into the metal or whatever material your pan is. It can also help prevent burning the oil, as when it's just sat in the pan for a while, it can end up reaching smoke point a lot quicker than you might think. Whereas if you add the oil and then straight away add your veggies, it's going to help cool the oil and prevent it from burning. We also don't want to degrade any of the nutrients in the oil, as I'm using a extra virgin olive oil. So the pan's now hot, and I'm just going to add a tablespoon of the olive oil. Of course, if you don't want to use oil, feel free to use water or veggie stock. And then once that oil is hot, we'll go in with the chili and the garlic. Give that a little swirl around. We'll only cook this for literally 30 seconds. We don't want to burn the garlic. It can go a sort of light brown, but that is as far as we want to take it. So it's literally been about 30 seconds, and I'm going to add in the broccoli. Give that a toss. The broccoli will now cool down the pan and stop the garlic and chili from burning. We'll then add that lemon zest. Just about half a lemon will do. The smells coming from this pan are just incredible. And then the juice of just half that lemon, and then just toss that through. I'm also going to add a quick crack of black pepper. You don't want to cook the broccoli for too long, about 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes maximum. And as you can see, it's still nice and firm. It's gonna have a good bite to it, and it's vibrant green. And then just serve it up. It has started to discolor just a little bit, but that is because I got carried away doing a bit of washing up. And that is just a really simple way of cooking broccoli that is going to be absolutely delicious. So good. That is honestly really tricky to stop eating. And it's so simple, a great way to elevate your greens, whether you've got kale, green beans, pak choy, it will work with all of them. You get a nice pungent kick of garlic, fiery hit from the chili, and then the lemon just sort of cleanses your palate. Super delicious. Next, for level 2 is a super green broccoli salad with satay sauce. So we're going to make a very simple satay sauce, which is of course going to start with some peanut butter. You're welcome to use crunchy or smooth. I'm going to go for crunchy even. Get that in there. This is going to be a really simple satay sauce with no cooking required. Going in with some coconut cream. You can also use coconut milk. Or if you don't want to use coconut cream, feel free to leave it out. Or you could add cashew cream. Next, I've got some ground cumin and some ground coriander. Some light soy sauce to season the satay sauce and also add some nice umami depth. Then maple syrup for a little bit of sweetness. I'm also going to add the juice of half a lime. Just give it a quick roll to help release that juice. We'll start with half and then we'll see how it tastes, see if it needs any more. And then just give it a good whisk. If you want to, you could add some zested garlic in here, some zested ginger. You could even add some fresh chili if you want. I'm just going to keep it like a simple base sort of satay sauce. This is looking like quite a nice consistency. To loosen it, we can add some boiling water. This is looking pretty good, but I'm just going to add a touch, maybe like a teaspoon, and that should be perfect. You want it fairly runny, but still thick enough to coat the vegetables. Apologies if you can hear the rain outside. It's absolutely tipping it down. Summer is clearly over. And then of course, just give it a quick taste. Perfect. For the salad, we'll start by prepping the broccoli. As with the previous recipe, we're going to go for fairly small florets. And this is going to be the start of our super green salad. Next, I've got some green beans, and the best way to prep these is to sort of flatten them onto your chopping board and then just use your knife and just sort of push them together like so. Just sort of push them into your knife so they're all lined up perfectly. And then that means you're just going to take the tip of the green bean off without taking up too much of the actual vegetable. There we go. Then just flip them around and do the same thing. Push the ends towards your knife, get them as close as possible. And then once again, just going to cut off the tip just there. There we go, that's perfect. And then we want these green beans to cook at the same time as the broccoli, so I'm just going to cut them into 3 as they can be quite fibrous. And this is just going to mean they cook slightly quicker. And then I've got some fresh coriander, which we're just going to finely chop. If you don't like coriander, feel free to use another herb like parsley or chives. A little bit of Thai basil could be really nice. I've then got some spring onions, just going to chop off the bottoms and just a little bit off the top, just the dry portion. And we'll just finely chop these. Whenever you're cutting vegetables, you want to make it as easy and manageable for yourself. So I've just cut them in half to make it a little bit more easier to grip. And then I'm going to bunch them up and just finely slice like so. I like to make the spring onions quite small because they're going in raw to the salad. And they can have quite a strong oniony flavor. And I don't want to be biting down on a massive bit of sort of oniony spring onion. So once again, we're just going to boil these veggies nice and quick, healthy and fresh. So get yourself a pan of boiling water on there. And again, we're going to add a good pinch of salt because we really want to season these veggies from within. They're going to absorb this water and thus be seasoned with it. So the water's now boiling and we can add in our broccoli and also our green beans. Push them in a little bit just to make sure they're all submerged. Pop the lid back on and we'll cook them for about 2 minutes. So the water's come to a boil and they've been cooking for about 2 minutes. I'm now going to add in some frozen edamame beans. They won't take long to cook. I'll probably just give them an extra minute now. So just drain off your veggies. Like so. and then straight away I'm going to get the cold tap on them. This is to keep them nice and vibrant and green and to stop them from cooking any further. Even better would be to get them into some water with some ice. Sadly, I forgot to refill the ice tray, so I'm just going to run them under the cold water for a little bit. So now we just need to bring everything together. We're going to add all our greens to a large bowl. Then our spring onions, the fresh coriander or whichever herb you decided to use. For even more crunch, I'm going to add some toasted peanuts. I'm simply going to dress it just with some fresh lime, and that is literally it, because we do have the peanut butter dressing, the peanut butter satay sauce to pour on top as well. And then you can just mix it up. Such a fresh and vibrant salad here. Loads of greens, lots of goodness. The vitamin C in the lime is going to help you absorb the iron that's in these green veggies. And I will just plate this up because I'm going to have some of it for my lunch. So vibrant and green, looks really beautiful. And there you have it, another really delicious but simple way to enjoy your broccoli. Dip that in the sauce. God, that's good. If you love peanut butter like me, then this is going to be a winner for you. If you wanted to turn this into a more rounded meal, then some soy glazed tofu and some jasmine rice would be absolutely delicious. And finally, for level 3 is this beautiful tandoori roast broccoli. So we're going to turn this little tree into tandoori roast broccoli, and it's going to start in a similar way to our previous recipes in that we're going to blanch the broccoli, but we're not going to make the broccoli quite as small this time. You can either cut the broccoli in half, or you can go into quarters if you like. I think I'm going to go for quarters. If you had a large head of broccoli, you might want to cut it into smaller pieces. Then we're going to bring a pan of water to the boil, and once again add a nice pinch of salt to season the broccoli. Then once that comes to a boil, we're just going to drop in our broccoli, gently does it. We don't want it to break up. And we'll just let that simmer away for about 3 minutes. You can roast broccoli without blanching it first, but with these larger pieces, I find giving them a quick 2-minute blanch really helps with stopping them from burning before they're fully cooked through. We'll just drain this and then we'll let it sit there while we make the yogurt marinade. Into a mixing bowl, I'm going to add some thick vegan yogurt. Make sure it's unsweetened and unflavored. Then about a tablespoon of lemon juice. A couple cloves of zested garlic. If you don't have a zester, then feel free to use a knife and just finely chop it. While you've got the zester out, we're going to do some fresh ginger as well. Similar amount as the garlic, about a teaspoon I'd say. Then for the spices, we're doing about a tablespoon of curry powder. I'm using a mild one, but you can go for a spicy one if you'd like. A teaspoon of dried turmeric, about a teaspoon of ground cumin, half a teaspoon of garam masala, another half teaspoon of paprika, and about a teaspoon of fenugreek leaves. And a good grinding of black pepper. And then just whisk to combine. I'm actually going to add another quarter teaspoon of turmeric, just to give it a little bit more of a vibrant color. Just make sure you don't get it on your t-shirt, especially if it's white. So now we're ready to roast the broccoli. I've got my air fryer ready, and I've just lined it with some baking parchment. I'll be honest, this recipe probably is best done in the oven, just because they are quite large pieces of broccoli, but it's quite hot today and I don't fancy turning on the oven. So I've got my marinade here and I've got my broccoli, and we're simply going to dunk the broccoli into the marinade and get it really nicely coated. This is going to get a little bit messy. Make sure you get the stalk as well as the floret. Being careful not to break it up. And then just give it a little shake to get off any excess marinade, and then get it into your air fryer or onto your oven sheet, oven pan. Best to do this all in one go, so you just have you get your hands messy once. Really get your hands in there to get the marinade nice and coated onto the broccoli. Just let it drip for a second. So that is roughly what you're looking for. It doesn't have to be neat. And we are going to pop that into the air fryer. I'm going to put it on the highest. Let's plug it in first. That's probably a good idea. And we're going to put that on the highest temperature, which I believe is 210 degrees. And just set that off for, let's go for 10 minutes to start with. And there we go. And after just 10 minutes of cooking, this is looking absolutely delicious. Beautiful color on the outside. Nice bit of caramelization. Just lay these down. The smell coming from these is just incredible. Just garnish it with a little fresh coriander and chili. And just a little squeeze of lemon juice over the top. You also can't go wrong with a dollop of mango chutney. I seriously cannot wait to tuck into this. That is going to be really tasty. Right, let's dig in. That is so good. That is a delicious way to enjoy broccoli. This would be delicious next to a bowl of fragrant dal and some fluffy rice, or just next to a curry. But in my opinion, it really is a showstopper. It looks quite incredible and be great in the middle of an Indian platter. Thank you so much for watching. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and check out this video for some more plant-based cooking inspiration.